Hi, good evening, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to another episode of Coffee with Friends. This live stream may discuss trauma of all sorts to include all types of abuse. Viewers and listeners may find it unsettling and triggering. The guests on our live streams reflect a diverse set of values, morals, and ethics that may not reflect the morals, values, and ethics of the Misfit Amish. If this live stream causes you distress, please seek support from your trusted folks and qualified mental health professionals as needed. With that being said, I'd like to welcome James. Good evening, James. How
We're
you doing?
here.
Say hello. Oh, you got a copy. You got a whole
Yeah, girl.
copy. Wow. So, tell me about your new book.
Okay, so it's called Long Lost Friend, and it's available on Amazon. Mary will drop a link for us. It's a fictional short story about vampires and a little known facet of the Amish that we call brauha, or powwowing, or hexing, and what you would think of as witchcraft, mysticism, and a curious footnote in Amish culture, I would say.
Very curious. Very, very curious.
So I'd like to start out, Mary, and ask you your experience with brauha or powwowing. Like when did you find out about this aspect of our culture?
When my mother and my grandmother were fighting about it.
It's very It's
I was
very
very young.
controversial, even within our communities. It's a controversial thing. My family are Swiss Amish, and so they were familiar with powwowing, which I guess a more general term for powwowing would be faith healing, Christian faith healing. However, it is controversial. It's not practiced across the board. It's really sort of a hangover from our ancestors in Europe during the medieval times, I would say. So my story, again, is fiction. It's a comedy. I am serving you a beach read this year. That being said, the subject matter is sort of framed in this historical aspect of what exactly hexing is, and we don't like to discuss it because it upsets the tourists. We can't make
Well,
the tourists mad.
well, I mean, like let's be real. Like if you start talking about like faith healing and stuff like that, um so we would have we would have this thing where we would have a nail clipper on a chain and we would put like herbs or vitamins on somebody's hand, and if it went to the left we would like not take it, and if it went to the right, watch, just watch. If it went to the right, then we would take it, we would add more.
You're getting sleepy. You're getting very, very sleepy.
I'm just saying, like, there's this whole thing, there's this whole element of it. And then there was also the part where people would lay on hands and stuff like that, which when you start studying witchcraft or paganism or something like that, what you'll find out is that there's a lot of ritual embedded within Amish culture.
Absolutely. Amish culture is extremely superstitious. Like
Yep.
I've written about it before elsewhere, but like I can recall whenever a bird hit the window, my mother would say it was a death message, and
Oh,
like
yes.
yeah, and then like later that day, a buggy would pull up, and we would be told that somebody had died, and this, I mean, every time it was insane. But what's interesting, Mary, is like last year, I remember a bird hit my window and I didn't get a death message. So apparently it's an Amish only thing.
Apparently. It only works if you're actively in the church, James.
Okay. That would
Okay.
explain it.
And, like, another part of it is there's a whole ritual that is done by some Amish, and like James said, this is not across the board. This is just it's it's unique to some Amish.
We're looking at you, Berks County, Pennsylvania.
We're not saying a word about that. We're just saying unique to some Amish. We're not calling them out. We're just saying some. Anyways, but there was a whole ritual that would be done if somebody was pregnant to figure out, like, if it was the gender of the baby with the
Oh,
light with the oil light on the floor.
wow. Wow.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And then, like, there is also this whole thing of using herbs in ways I just I don't even know how to explain it, but it overlaps with like paganism, witchcraft, mysticism, all of that.
Yes,
It
this is
really
true.
does.
And are you familiar with the book um Long Lost Friend, Powwowing? It's a book that's quite famous in a lot of Amish circles. It's basically a manual or a handbook on hexing. Okay,
No, no,
it's
we didn't.
available on online if
James.
anyone's interested. But it basically lays out the things that you need to do to hex someone.
No, Salusubetki. You're just going a little too far now. Okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. And I actually, when I was researching Amish hexing when I wrote the book to see what content or how well this is even known. And honestly, it's really not. I think there was a documentary on a case in Pennsylvania where there was a murder due to someone attempting to hex someone. It happened a long time ago. Again, this is Pennsylvania. I think the documentary's on YouTube. But really, there's not much out there on Amish on this aspect of our culture. And I'm not sure if we're moving away from that or if it's still as prevalent as it once was and people just continue not to talk about it. I don't know.
I don't know either, but another thing is like seeing things. Like, there would be all of these stories, like, of like people seeing things, like demons and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Stories of demon possession, and then, of course, there's always the exorcisms that go with it.
yeah,
But I think if people really just understood that there is this element of superstition that comes along with being raised Amish, it could be helpful. Because, like, you were mentioning the bird, there were some other things too. Is there anything else you can remember that were signs?
well, yeah, well, first of all, I they actually practice hexing on me when because of my disability, and my parents when I was very young, like 4 or 5, took me to a doctor and they said there's not much we can do, da da da. So they took me to a quote unquote faith healer in Pennsylvania, possibly Berks County. I don't recall, Lancaster area for sure. Um, and this man hypnotized me. First of all, he was not Amish, but he was, I guess, plain. He was an elderly man. He had kind of like shoulder length white hair. He was really famous because I think my parents found him through the Budget newspaper because they were not familiar with what we would call hexing, but they could get in contact with someone that was and that could practice this or faith healing or um, whatever you want to refer to it as. But so, yeah, we went out there And this guy hypnotized me. I remember him doing this thing, and I can recall him putting eggs on. Like I was seated in front of this coal stove, and he had like hot coals in the stove, and he put like these eggs on it, and they would start popping, and he would start reciting Bible verses and putting more eggs on the stove, and he was chanting this and that and reciting Bible verses, and it went on for probably a half hour. And I don't really recall what happened afterwards, other than walking out to the van or where my parents were. I don't recall what he really said to them. Um, However, it was not effective. I was not healed from my disability.
Gee, I wonder why. Could it
however,
be?
however, I can imagine that my parents were also not healed from their wallet after his fee.
I'm sure. Sadly, like I feel like sometimes there's people out there who kind of prey on Amish people with that in a way because maybe they're doing things just for money that isn't necessarily going to work. Like you had an injury that caused you to live with a physical disability, and the doctors had said, there was nothing they could do. And so then instead, like desperate parents go around to these people, like chiropractors is one that we had.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
in fact, like you talk about going to an a faith healer or whatever you want to call them. I was taken multiple times to an Amish chiropractor or a faith healer. Like I was taken to both of them. Like when I was really little, it's funny that you were taken to Pennsylvania because I was taken to Indiana to an Amish doctor there. I can still tell you the name and everything, but it was so weird. It was so weird. And yes, the whole thing, and of course there was a fee. But anyways, so why did you want to write a comedy about the hexing?
Well, as you know, Mary, I like to push people's buttons, and you know, our culture really does need some pushback. And this is a subject that um, really isn't discussed. And it's curious because obviously it still goes on today. Obviously, it's going to go on. But I wanted to sort of just take a look at it and see where it came from, and frame it as I wanted to write a book of like a short story. I've always been a very big reader, as you know, and the books of W. Somerset Maugham. He wrote a lot of wonderful short stories, like really, really, really short stories that have like a twist ending, and I always really enjoyed his stories. Um, Other writers, Nathaniel Hawthorne, he wrote some very good short stories. Truman Capote wrote some really beautiful short stories. So I've always really admired the art form. However, as you know, poetry is my first love. And so the last few years to do something different, turn my creativity in a different direction, work on some fiction. The book before this was about a gay Amish sex worker. So, and that was also a comedy in a slightly different way. This is more of a satirical book. It's funny. But yes, the subject matter itself is the focal point of my book, and it's a subject I think that needs to be discussed further.
Well, So I want to point out that there's a very interesting link between like the healer that I went to, the Amish doctor guy that I went to, that I was taken to as a young child. I would have been under the age of 7, by the way. But I want to point out this: there's a correlation between what he did, which is like your you're talking about this whole thing of how one person will have so much power in the book. You're talking about that. Like, this man had the power to have people giving me specific amounts of herbs and stuff like that, and tinctures and all of those things, which kind of also crosses over into kitchen witchery. And then you wrote this book where you're talking about, it goes a little darker than that. A little darker.
A little bit.
Wouldn't you say? Like when you have the vampire threat and talking about that and how what the response is, I can only imagine that that would be a real response. Like that felt real.
Yeah, before the early Anabaptists, in medieval times, it was wild back then, and misinformation was extremely common. And during that time, there was a major vampire scare in Europe. It was just like, the equivalent of today, something going viral. And so our ancestors bought into all that, the superstition, the hexing. I mean, this is what this comes from, though, is during that time, people practiced that, and they brought it across the ocean with them to America.
Are you saying that it's kind of like, it's been in there for generations? Okay. I
I would
mean, it
also,
has been, but
yeah,
yeah.
no, and I would also point out that some of the Native Americans accused the Amish of basically hexing them, of cursing them, um, when they arrived. Um, this there is that aspect of Amish history where, um, we're colonizers. We took Native American land away. Um,
We did.
and yeah, we the Amish today are not interested in any land back hashtag land back movement. Um, and frankly, I think that the Amish Church owes the Native American community reparations. They really do. Um, but
Well,
but that is neither here nor now.
no, no, it's not, and it's not really what we're talking about, but it does kind of play a a, a piece. It's a piece of the culture. What would you say? Like, have you ever heard of the Amish healers who like can lay hands on people and draw out like their pain or their fever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
uh,
I have heard of it, and also I think it's discussed in that book that I mentioned, the Hexing manual. It's very strange. The customs are very strange. A lot of it is reciting Bible verses. Um, I actually included one of the hexes in my book. So if anybody wants to try it out for themselves, there you go.
there you go. Well, um, I had some. I was being taught how to do like massage to like take away people's pain and stuff like that. Like, so I'll just say that I received that kind of training as a child. Just I don't I don't really want to talk about it though. But
Yeah.
it's very interesting that one of our listeners brought that up.
Yes, yes. A few people know a few things.
A few.
If you are watching this and you are Amish, you are a member of the Amish church, chances are you know one person that practices Brauha, hexing, powwow, and you know one person, and if you don't, you know somebody that does.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Somebody. There's a big chance because, like, I would say too that there's some Amish communities that are very well traveled, like, and they go from community to community, and they visit each other, and they have a large group of people that they are acquainted with. So it's very possible you might know somebody. And I
Mm.
wouldn't even say that it's necessarily something to be afraid of, just it just is, right? Like, we don't have to be afraid of, like you said, like the bird flew in the window and died, and then there was later that day somebody came in with a buggy and was like, "Oh, somebody died," right? But
Mm-hmm.
then outside of that, like, sometimes that doesn't happen. There's, like, certain things about crops, there's certain things about vegetable gardens, I can't even remember all of them, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that tie into the superstitions that I grew up with.
Right. Um, some of it I feel is passed on to the next generation, and maybe we're losing some aspects of our culture here and there. I don't really know. Like for example, my father, although he moved to Michigan, was from Bern, and I remember when I was very young, we went to a big gathering down there, and it was very late at night, and they had a yodeling, a Swiss yodeling, and you know, it's these very ancient relatives of my father that got this from just a few generations ago from when they were still in Europe. This was passed down, but today, their great grandchildren probably can't yodel or things get lost.
Right.
um okay, yeah. Responding to the comment, Dunkard. Mary, we've never had a Dunkard guest on Plain Rainbows.
No, we haven't. That's
We need to
interesting.
fix that.
I don't
Where's
know.
our gay Dunkards at?
I don't know that I've met any. And, Dunker brethren are just they're our cousins,
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
the Hittites are our cousins, and the Mennonites.
Right,
I mean,
right.
the Mennonites, though, we're really apostates, you know.
The Mennonites are getting gayer every day. That's all I got to say.
I'm just saying, did you know that this is totally off topic. Did you know that MCUSA had a split recently?
Looking in people's eyes to heal. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. So, yeah, I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah, I'd really like to know where that comes from, or maybe that's just something that was passed down from his family. Because, like, in my family, we
Mhm,
have very specific ways, and like I said, I was introduced to Brauho by my oven and my grandmother arguing about it. That's what
mhm.
introduced me to it. I was very small. Like,
Yeah.
I was probably 5 years old.
Mhm.
So maybe it was just like, I don't know, maybe that was part of the reason why it was like, "Oh, Mary, du bist der Schrott wie." Oh, I'm not gonna say her name, but, she used to tell me that over and over and over and over again. "You're just like your grandmother." Okay, it's a great compliment.
Mhm. Mhm. So, yeah, but
He looks at their eyes and then what their conditions are, what they need. Does it work? Who knows? Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that you know what? I'm a healthy skeptical person now, okay? And sarcastically, I just like to say that I just feel like that sounds like a legitimate scientific method of treating people's ailments. Just kidding. But anyways,
yeah,
you wanna know something else?
yeah.
I actually have in writing some content about an Amish guy who says he's like a doctor, and some of the things he does is he like cuts off people's like if they have a lesion or something, he'll straight up cut it off. Stuff like that, which gets into like practicing medicine without a license. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of like there's this whole crossover between where you have the, what do you call it? The You use the word, James. I can't think of the English word right now. Superstitions. There's this
Yeah,
whole,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you have the whole crossover between the superstitions, and then like it goes into like faith. You have like the hexing, the straight up
Mm-hmm.
hexing,
Mm-hmm.
and the straight up like practicing witchcraft. And then you have the faith healing, and then you get into like the chiropractors, the Amish chiropractors, who by the way are not licensed chiropractors either. And yes, I went to see an Amish chiropractor too. Did not help. Not my Anyways, I digress. But then it goes into actual, like, doing actual medical treatments that they shouldn't be doing, or like dentists, they'll have like Amish dentists sometimes. So there's like a whole line of like different things, because sometimes we might have an attitude that is like, well, what do the doctors know anyways? Yeah, they went off to medical school, but de estava de Harvey alles. I'm just saying. Hinda says, if y'all want to do some brow or powwow on my migraines, have a go, because I'm over it. I might have to write you later. Somebody wants to know if you can yodel for us.
I cannot.
I can't yodel. That was not my community's thing. In fact,
How,
we felt like
however,
the Amish who yodeled were so worldly, y'all. That just was taking it too far. That's what I was taught. But it's so
what I
pretty.
can do, I can't yodel for you, but I can direct you to YouTube. Uh, and my it's not immediate family, but I'm related to them on my dad's side. The Brandenburger Gospel family. These are like my second or third cousins, and they do some more traditional music. I don't know if they yodel though, but they would be Swiss Amish.
Yeah, the Swiss Amish, they were just so. I'm
And
just saying, James.
yeah, and let me just say the Swiss Amish are a lot more fun than German Amish.
Really? Are you talking
Yeah,
smack about us? About my
Ger-
kind of Amish?
German Amish, we're gonna throw some shade because Swiss Amish are fun.
All right, I challenge you. We're gonna play Dutch Blitz and figure out who's better at it. That's the challenge. So, anyways,
So,
regardless,
anyways, yes.
regardless of somebody wants to know, have either of you ever played the game Rook? Oh, I've
Yes,
spent many, many, many hours playing the game Rook, even when I wasn't
yes.
supposed to. Because I lived in some communities where we were allowed to play with cards, and other communities where we were not. But I will tell you, I played a lot of card games.
Yep, Rook and Old Maid, Mary.
Rook. Oh no, we played I believe the English call it assholes. You know, scum.
What did you play?
Like, scum, where you have like the president and the
Oh
vice
yeah, yeah,
president.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah.
And we weren't allowed to play blackjack, but we could play 21.
Oh wow! So my dad was cool and let us play Clue and Battleship, and we also had a Bible trivia game. But I always left the table when they played that. I'm
Oh
like, no,
my.
I'm good, I'm good.
Oh no, we didn't have a Bible trivia game, because the other thing is sometimes
Yeah.
the Bible's just a verfehltes Buch. But anyways, congratulations on getting your book out there. I am excited for that. I think it's amazing. I've read it, y'all, and I just want to say one of the things that James does, and it always impresses me, is that James sits there and writes these short stories that bring in some very important aspects of Amish culture. And yes, it's fiction, but it kind of gives the reader the idea of like, hey, maybe this is something different. And it's not necessarily like stereotyping. It's just an idea of like, this is like, sometimes this happens.
Thank you, Mary.
It's beautiful. And I love that. Also, I love the sarcasm. I love like satirical types of humor. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. And Mary, you're kind of amazing yourself. Your book is amazing. Your podcast appearances are amazing. And if y'all have not seen our third season of Playing Rainbows, we totally kicked ass this year. We got Hooderites, we got Mennonites, we got all sorts of gay people up in there talking. And I would say that it was a pretty entertaining season this year, Mary.
It was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. How can I make a positive impact on the Amish women and children that I see in the town that I live in? Really, finding peace. If you go to the misfitamish.com, I'll put a link in the chat, but we have a whole list of tips that we have compiled for people who want to help. There's two different places. But one is like, how can you help? There's a whole video we made with a panel on how to help. What are some of the things that people can do? And I really appreciate that question because truthfully, people do want to help. Sometimes they just don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we have that information out there. And then the second link is going to be, that I'm going to share, is going to be the resources, because we've created these resources that you are able to download and print and even just read them to help you understand better how to help and how to be supportive for Amish women and children around you. So thank you. Anyways, die sind mir ein Hexe.
Jacob.
Jacob. Well, why you got to tell the world you're hexing people? Anyways, now this book is just a short, it's only like 40 pages long, right, James? Like it's a short read, but it's a good read, and it's like really cool to kind of see what happens. And then you threw in the twist at the ending, and I was just like, wait, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Hinda says Amish Rook and Dutch Blitz sounds like black people playing spades. Fights break out. Well, we're not going to talk about that though, but I'm pretty sure there's been some real physical fights about it. Dutch Blitz. Yes, I love Dutch Blitz.
Dutch Blitz. Uh-huh.
Bill, I'm not sure what you mean finding peace. With that being said, would you like to wrap this up? Do you have any parting words if people don't have any more questions?
Yeah, we are having a book party next Sunday at 8 p.m. here at the Universe Building in Detroit. You can buy the book on Amazon. There's a link below, Long Lost Friend. So you can search that on Amazon and that will take you there. But yes, next Sunday, 8 p.m. book party. You'll be able to purchase copies of Long Lost Friend. The amazing author Peter Werby is going to be reading from his new collection of essays called Eat the Rich and Other Interesting Ideas.
Oh,
So
that sounds interesting.
So, bless you, Peter Werby, for agreeing to do this with me. And we're going to have some food, and it's going to be free, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So if you can join us in Detroit next Sunday, you are more than welcome to come. There's a Facebook event if you want more information on that. And the book itself is available on Amazon. Thank you to my publisher, Alien Buddha Press. Thank you to Mary for helping me get the word out on this book. And I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it.
Ooh. So you're going to have a book signing on Sunday. Links below in the video description. I've also linked it in the comments for you. If you want to read some satirical humor, it's a very short read. It's a really great read. Go check out James' book. Also, Jacob says, I like free food, but Detroit is a long distance from me. I thought he was going to say, I like free food, but Detroit is a long distance for an Amish like me.
Yeah, that means you got to hire a van.
You got to hire a van. Yep. So with that being said, I'm going to bring this to an end. Thank you so much, James, for giving me the
Thank you,
honor of
Mary.
pre-reading
Thank
your
you,
book.
everyone.
I think it's amazing. I think that having these conversations about hexing and medical care. Ooh, I got one more thing to say about that. Have you ever seen people being anointed? Like people who were chronically ill and they had medical conditions and they would anoint them. Did you ever see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's fairly common. But, anyways, on that last note, I'd like to thank all of you for listening and engaging. I appreciate you. I'd like to thank our Patreon subscribers for helping us bring this to you and for allowing us to have the ability to give you these conversations. We appreciate you. And y'all have a good night. Remember, you're enough. You deserve health, happiness, and joy in life.